weather, and Newey Scruggs sports.
Well, UFO researchers and activists alike say there is plenty of evidence that aliens do exist. But when will the scientific community weigh in on the matter? In tonight's UPN News 13 investigation, a panel of scientists examined some of the strongest UFO evidence yet and issues its findings for or against. Tammy Taylor is back from Stanford University, in fact, with a story. Tammy.
Very interesting, Alan. You know, when science and UFO research meet, it is not necessarily a happy union. UFO cases are hard to substantiate. Evidence is very elusive. Scientists want facts, not anecdotes. But when philanthropist Lawrence Rockefeller asked Stanford physicist Peter Sturrock to look into the UFO problem, Sturrock jumped at the chance. Peter Sturrock, respected professor emeritus at Stanford University, an expert in plasma physics with what he calls a back burner interest in UFOs. Millionaire Lawrence Rockefeller turned to him with this question: why have we made so little progress in solving the UFO mystery?
I said that we'd only make progress in solving the problem if we can get a lot of scientists involved in it.
Sturrock assembled a panel of 9 scientists who were presented some of the best physical evidence available by some of the best UFO researchers in the world. The result, this: a controversial report that concludes UFOs do in fact deserve additional scientific study.
The panel expressed the view that you've got to have 2 or 3 kinds of evidence which are all mutually supportive.
For the thousands of people who think they've seen something from out of this world, the truth is out there somewhere. And for all the UFO researchers and activists we've talked to all across America over the past 2 years, the truth will be found one way or another. Witness or activist, these people want answers. So Sturrock and his distinguished panel of colleagues brought a scientific eye to physical evidence in UFO cases. Case study number 1. Scientists were presented with this photograph taken on Vancouver Island in 1981. It shows a silvery oval-shaped object against the blue sky. Photographic expert Richard Haynes presented his evidence to the scientific panel.
He had the original negative. He'd borrowed the camera. He scanned the photograph, had all kinds of analysis. And then we learned the person who took the photograph never saw anything. He saw mountains in the background. So again, it's a case with some physical evidence, but no witness testimony, whatever.
Even though the witness was there.
Even though the witness was there.
Case number 2, the one that comes the closest to meeting that strict scientific criteria. Trans-en-Provence, France, January 8th, 1981. A man sees the hard landing of a strange object, which left 2 types of evidence on the ground.
The trace evidence indicates that something made very clear geometrical patterns on the ground, as if something with a circular base landed.
Laboratory analysis also showed that plants inside the circle had been damaged in ways plants outside the circle had not.
The plants inside the ring had different chemical compositions than those outside, and the kind of change that would occur due to aging, they were all the same age, or possibly because of heat, possibly because of microwave radiation, we don't know. But there were systematic changes, and I think that's the kind of evidence that really is exciting to pursue.
Exciting as the evidence was, according to the scientific panel, it just wasn't enough.
The weakness there's only one witness. One would like to have several witnesses, there's only one witness. So the weakness in that case is the one witness case.
But you have 2 types of physical evidence.
Yes.
It wasn't well enough established, it wasn't well enough measured, or it wasn't well enough repeatable.
Stanford space scientist Von Eshelman is one panel member who found the evidence just not up to snuff from a scientific standpoint.
You make no headway at all in the scientific community if you say something happened or you made these measurements and they mean something, unless somebody else can repeat the measurements or repeat the observations and get a similar result.
But Von Eshelman, an expert in electrical engineering, believes he found a scientific explanation for one of the cases: strange lights in the skies of Norway.
Blue lights, red lights, white lights, making quite a display and lasting for hours.
Until a few years ago, scientists believed all electrical activity and thunderstorms takes place within the clouds or below them. Now they know there is activity as high as 6 miles above the storm.
Remind me so much of exactly this kind of thing. So I asked the question, was there any thunderstorm activity in Norway at that time? And in fact, there was a thunderstorm, so there's no doubt about it in my mind that that's what they were seeing.
Case number 4, a UFO incident involving radar evidence seems to come close to meeting scientific criteria.
And an Air France plane was flying near Paris about 30,000 feet above the clouds. And the steward saw something out of the window. He went into the pilot's cockpit and talked to the pilot. The pilot then saw it, and so did the co-pilot. And what they described was a huge object about 1,000 meters across, and with fuzzy edges. And on radar, it was tracked as going at 100 knots to start with, and then slowing down about 50 knots, and then stopping to a stationary location.
So now how significant is that in terms of something tangible?
Well, I think that is significant, and again, the panel says we want more. Where are the photographs?
Von Eshelman dismisses the radar reports as ghost images, something that happens all the time.
So this is a common occurrence on radar.
Yes, it is. Ducting is called.
So you're saying that
It's a mirage. It's a radar mirage, essentially.
Even so, Eshelman believes UFO research should continue and that scientists can be a valuable part of it.
There's no argument that I would give that those who want to do it shouldn't continue to do it.
The panel decided we do not now have as good evidence or as much evidence as we need. It recommended that there should be a program of trying to acquire better evidence, better physical evidence, and then better analyzed with strong witness testimony.
now these were just a few of the cases reviewed by the scientific panel. The entire report is available. And if you'd like to get a copy, you can find it on the internet at www.jsc.com/UF_, not dash, _reports. You can also link to that website from our web address, upn13.com. Look under specialty shop follow-ups. And in addition, Peter Sturrock has compiled all of that information in a book. It's called The UFO Enigma, if you want to look it up.
Very interesting. A strict standard for evidence.
No kidding about that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.